Hello, everyone. My name is Hamid Ghafoor, and I lead BDO's social housing team in the north of England. As some of you, I'm sure, aware, BDO recently issued the Social Housing Barometer, looking at key trends impacting on the social housing sector at the moment. And as part of that, part of our process around the Social Housing Barometer, we're talking to key individuals within the sector about how they see what they see as the key risks and how they see organisations such as themselves managing that key risk as they move forward. With me today is David Smith. David is the Executive Director of Resources at Broadacres. And David, just want to sort of introduce what you actually do at Broadacres and how that works for yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Hamid, and good afternoon. So I'm the Director of Resources for Broadacres, as you say there. In that capacity, I'm the Director of Finance. I'm responsible for procurement. I'm responsible for facilities, legal services, and then with all that's gone on in 2020, I've taken responsibility for our catering team, as well as our cleaning team as well. So very much a mixed bag of responsibilities this year.
So David, as you said yourself, it's been quite an interesting year. And from a perspective of Broadacres, how do you think you've coped with the challenges that 2020's brought, in particular COVID? And in terms of where do you think you are at this moment in time in terms of coming through that and looking at the future as well?
Yeah, thanks for that. And there's lots wrapped up in that. In that point of yours. So I think Broadacres was very fortunate. I think we were very lucky at the beginning of the lockdown, the main lockdown in March. As an organisation, we'd had a business continuity exercise over the Christmas period, and that had scenarioed for losing our head office to a fire or to something that took the head office out of action. And so we'd planned for mobile working at Christmas time. So ahead of the chaos that was March, we'd gone out to the market. We'd already been in the market and purchased laptops for remote working, spare monitors, and so on and so forth. So come mid-March and the last couple of weeks of March, when we knew we were going into lockdown, to revert to mobile working for those of us who are head office based or office based was actually quite easy. And again, there's merit with me highlighting there that only a third of our staff are office-based anyway, because of course we're a housing association. We do our own repairs and maintenance. So 2/3 of our staff are mobile. So we were lucky, we planned for that, and we got into the practice of remote working very well. We opted not to furlough any of our staff. We instead assigned those individuals who were frontline and coming into contact with our customers, we assigned them elsewhere. So we spent a lot of the time frontline working on our empty properties, socially distanced, of course. And then for the roles and the areas such as catering, such as cleaning, we put our colleagues into teams. And of course, nowadays we refer to them as bubbles. But we put them into teams for their working to protect the shifts and to do our best to maintain normal operations as much as possible. So, as I said, an element of good fortune. I'd also like to say a bit of good planning as well. And we're very proud of that. The challenge for us has been the geography as well, because of course, covering our estate, our homes across North Yorkshire, has represented a challenge, but we've managed well. And in terms of the future, which I think was the latter point of your question there, who knows what the future holds? We've maintained working practices at Broadacres that have put our customers first, maintain the safety of our colleagues. That's that's not up for negotiation. That will continue going forward. But in terms of our planning, our scenario planning, our risk tests, if you like, we're living those as we move forward. So I'd like to think again we've maintained that stability, and we'll face whatever 2021 throws at us on the back of an exceptional year.
Really really interesting actually listening to what you're saying about some of the things you'd already done. And I suppose it's been interesting like talking to organizations around the business continuity planning that they had in place, and then actually was that what they followed when the pandemic happened, or did they actually move away from that and deal with the issues as they came along? So from your perspective, what you seem to suggest is actually some of the planning that you've done earlier on in a couple of months before actually did really flow into how you actually then dealt with when we had to work off site and stuff like that.
Yeah, very much. And I think on the back of Broadacres coming through an IDA 14, 15 months ago, I really focused on our scenario planning, on our stress testing. And we went above and beyond, even before the pandemic struck the UK. We went above and beyond with our scenario planning and our stress testing. So we had a number of different and a number of additional variations and assumptions to model. And so when it came to putting these plans into place and diverting spend, for instance, and anticipating falls in income, we were in the position where we could check them off because we'd modeled them. So again, it goes back to my previous point about good fortune and good planning as well. We managed very well on that basis. And so we navigated a path of least resistance all through the summer, irrespective of the changes that, as we all well know, were happening on a daily basis. We have 5 care homes, we have 6,500 homes, and an awful lot of customers spread over a large area. And so we were able to focus our resources wherever that was needed, again, through redeploying staff, through stopping spend, through increasing spend, through, like everybody else, looking at our procurement of PPE equipment, for instance. So, yeah, I think we did a good job.
And in terms of coming through all that, and what do you think? What you think were the biggest challenges that you faced over the last 9 months or so? So has it been more from an operational perspective? And you mentioned care homes there, so I suppose they have their own specific type of issues. Or do you think you had more, or has there been a significant financial impact on the organisation? How do you feel that you came through all that?
Yeah, I mean, from a finance point of view, we've managed well. So we're running a separate memo, as you would expect, of COVID costs, and they're running at about £400,000 or £500,000 to date. But we've been able to stomach that. Our finances are strong, so financing wasn't ever an issue. We never really ran close with our finances, so to speak. The challenges. We've had challenges from every aspect of what we do. The decision not to furlough, for instance, we made that very quickly because we knew we'd be busy. The extra care schemes, the care schemes that we have, they have their own challenges, and it is about the customers, Hamid. You know that. We put the customers first, as we all do in the housing sector. So that's been a priority of ours. But challenges is a challenge for us has been the dialogue with our colleagues, because again, we want to keep them safe, and so we've not forced anyone to go anywhere they don't want to go. And naturally, we've maintained the social distance protocols. We've shielded the colleagues who've needed shielding, but the communication surrounding that has had to be absolutely spot on. So, we've worked hard on that. We're still learning, but we've adapted. And so, there's been, I wouldn't put any one challenge above everything else. It's been about the customers. It's been about the colleagues. It's been about maintaining as much as we can about business as usual.
And do you think actually because of your organisation being in a more rural area, being more geographically spread, you probably in a way already had some of those systems and the way you think as well about your organisation? Because we have other organisations who are very much concentrated in a certain area, but that's not your case. So you've got quite a wide spread of in North Yorkshire, like you mentioned before.
We have indeed. If you're good at geography, then you've got to think of Bridlington to Sedbergh. That's the area that we cover. North Yorkshire is the largest county right now in the we're certainly in England, if not in the UK, by geography. And we already operated on a hubs basis. So we had south of the region, east of the region, so on and so forth. That's been reinforced over the past few months. And the focus has been away from the head office because, of course, a lot of people are working remotely and we don't need to use the head office as much as we do. So that has been reinforced. We're looking now at better hubs elsewhere in the region, better facilities, and then less of a reliance on our main office in North Allerton. But again, the teams have done very well. Zone defending, if you like, zone marking. If I was to use a football analogy, we've known our geography, the teams have known the geography, and where we've fallen short or where we've needed a little bit of support, we've managed to get it there. So again, the rural nature of our work is a challenge, has been a challenge, but we've managed it well.
And I suppose now, obviously, you've been through this, and you're coming out the other end really in a really strong position in terms of from an operational perspective, and certainly from a financial perspective, as you've touched upon. I suppose it was interesting looking at the survey that we did in terms of looking at, for example, government changes in government policy is right up there in terms of key risk, and that in itself is quite challenging in terms of understanding where government is going. But we've got some pretty good ideas now in terms of what we've seen the last, quite recently around the green agenda, and then also the white paper and what's come out around that. So what do you see? How do you see your organisation meeting some of those challenges around, for example, the green agenda piece around the carbonisation and potentially the costs associated with that?
Yeah, and again, we're very proud of where we are in North Yorkshire. So our corporate plan for the period 2018 to 2023 is focusing on affordable warmth. The rural area, North Yorkshire, think James Herriot, and when it snows in North Yorkshire, it snows. So making affordable warmth for our customers is a priority. But the flip side of that is it needs to be energy efficient. It needs to be sensible for now and for the future. And so that's been a balancing act of ours for the past couple of years. Anybody who's looked at Broadacres social housing cost per unit will see that we've spent the money. We're investing massively in our existing homes as well as our new developments. And, the numbers are staggering. We're in 2 and a bit years into the programme, and we've spent the best part of £10 million making affordable warmth for our customers, making warmth affordable. And that's, again, reflecting the fact that in the rural area we live, a lot of our customers are off the gas grid. And so economy 7 heating is very expensive to them, whilst good for the environment. So we're looking to replace that with something that is sensible. And we've rolled out a programme of air source heat pumps, for instance, which again is good for the environment, is good for our customers, and is good for us right now. We've got one eye on the 2030 deadline for EPC compliance and SAP 69, making our properties SAP C or better. And we're continuing on that program. We like to think we're about a year ahead of some of our near neighbours, for instance, but it comes at a cost. And there's no hiding away from that. We're spending money. We've got some good understanding from our funders who are recognising our spend on environmental and social need. And again, we've got very strong plans. So, what's the expression? The expression is small steps, big difference. And I think we're making bigger steps to help that difference. So we're on plan for 2030 and forecasting as well for 2050 as well, and the decarbonisation.
And again, it's really interesting to sort of something that you've had to think about seriously because of the location you're in. Means that you've already been thinking about these things well in advance of anything that's come out recently. This is more of a longer term piece, isn't it? Really, from what you're saying.
It is, and again, based on the experience of 2020, we're fortunate we don't have a major employer, for instance. So our modelling of our income, our modelling of our rent, hasn't focused on a large manufacturer making lots of redundancies or closing, hasn't focused on a retail head office shutting down. So we've been able to maintain a lot of our existing plans anyway. But again, that realization has only come through some phenomenal stress testing, scenario planning that has come forward in 2020. So again, it's part of being in control. It's having an idea of whichever direction regulations take us globally, the pandemic takes us, and managing whatever lands with us, and maintaining business as usual.
Actually, on the health and safety piece first, actually, in terms of that, does that link into what you've already talked about in terms of your overall strategy of the next you're already implementing?
Absolutely. So health and safety compliance is non-negotiable. We have to deliver that, and we've had a program whereby we've ensured that we're at least decent home standard. We talk in Broadacres about the Broadacres standard, which is decent homes plus, if you like. But the starting point for that is health and safety compliance, fire risk assessments, and so on and so forth. So that was a given. The involvement of customers and customer choice has been very important to us beyond compliance. And so again, our 2018 to 2023 strategy was about listening to our clients, surveying our clients, asking what they were interested in, asking what they wanted, and within our cost envelopes, meeting their demand.
So in terms of the tenant piece, and obviously the white paper has been recently issued with a massive focus in terms of tenant voice, which really comes off the back of Grenfell and what happened there, and this move towards consumer regulation again. How do you, for an organisation as yourselves, do you see that's quite challenging because of your diversity of organisation, and what are you doing around that?
So our initial thoughts on the white paper is that a lot of the requirements we're already undertaking, and that sounds very clever, but I don't mean it to come across that way. We listen to our customers. We have processes in place that focus on our customers, and this reflects the journey that Broadacres has been on for a number of years now. It really has, as an organisation, we've taken stock about really what we're here for, what we're good at, and what we can deliver. And the white paper focuses on those elements. So we don't see it as a challenge. We see it as our pathway forwards. Modelling some of the costs of particular parts of the programme will represent a challenge for me as the resources director, but we'll firm those up as we go forward and things become clearer.
Excellent. And do you see any potential significant cost coming out from that? Do you think that's something that you're already planning for and you can manage?
We're already planning for a lot of the changes in regulations. Again, reflecting on our environmental programme, our affordable warmth programme. We don't have tower blocks. We have one building. One of our extra care schemes is over 12 metres, but it's modern. And we've taken care of that, and that was front of mind because of the changes in the regulations on the back of Grenfell. So we have that in hand. We're continuing to look at our homes, and those homes that become empty at some point in the near future that would cost us too much to improve for SAP compliance, for change in regulations, health and safety or otherwise, then we might take the decision to dispose of that. But again, we're remembering the fact that we're a rural housing association. And if that home is in a very rural part of North Yorkshire, where homes are unaffordable, with the exception of, something that Broadacres can offer, then we'll look at that. We're not about selling up in villages, to save a few bucks or to make a few bucks. we're about providing homes in rural areas. So we're at that level of detail planning, which has been a challenge, which is it's good fun, if I'm honest. It's good to look at. So again, I like to think we're in pole position to really to handle everything that's thrown at us.
Key element of what has why you've been able to come through the last few months, and also the confidence that you have in terms of the organizational strength in terms of meeting the challenges of the future is the IT infrastructure that you appear to have in place. And I mean, clearly it appears that came through really well, but was it anything that it's come through over the last few months that you feel actually these are areas that we do need to maybe be more efficient on in terms of streamline from a systems perspective, because of the way that you're going to work has changed and is going to remain changed whatever happens in the future?
Yeah, very much. I mean, there's not been a catalyst like the global pandemic that has caused the amount of mobile working that is now in place. You know, it's been the biggest reason for the move to agile working. On the back of the business continuity exercise we had in 2019, we looked very closely at our IT, and I see, you know, the types of protections such as virus protection and you know, the types of IT controls that are necessary. I see those as non-negotiable, and so, you know, we've always tried to stay one step ahead of the hackers from that point of view. I think we've looked very closely over the past few months at the PDAs that our frontline staff have, and all of a sudden, you know, it's highlighted that iPhones are just not big enough. You know, we need the larger tablets, so we'll look at the tablets, and we're rolling out, you know, tablets to our cleaners and our catering staff, which, you know, perhaps wasn't necessary in the past, but now more than ever we want to stay in touch with them more regularly, and so, you know, allowing them access to such has been important. So the IT infrastructure is strong. We'll keep it strong. We'll keep it safe, and we'll, you know, looking at the hardware, we want to meet everyone's needs, and so the tablets, the larger phones, some of the iPhones, and so on and so forth, you know, we'll distribute those appropriately.
Brilliant. Okay, David, I think that's probably a good place to bring this to an end. Actually, it's been really interesting talking to you about the particular challenges that Broadacres has faced. You're a different type of organisation because of the fact that you have such a rural spread, but actually, talking to you now in terms of you'd actually, because of that, it was in a way it was an advantage because of the communication had to be so strong before the pandemic hit, and actually you've been able to sort of strengthen that even further. So thank you very much for your time today.